6th in this country. Over there, January 6th is their Christmas in the Greek Orthodox tradition. And I think there's also, well, they were having a Christmas Mass upstairs because we went to the Roman Catholic Mass. Didn't understand a word of what he was saying. It was beautiful, I think. Yeah, Simeon was talking about Jesus. I wasn't really sure. I was watching the pigeons fly around. They just open up doors, massive doors. They're 20 feet tall, and birds will just fly in, having a good time. But we were here on Christmas, and so that's where we were at on Christmas Day. We were in Nazareth. So keep moving here. And this is the outside of the area. They have a lot of depictions of the Virgin Mary from different countries. And they're celebrating here. This one's Belarus. There's Bulgaria, Italy, France, Ethiopia, and what's that last one, honey? You see it? Huh?
Something with an L.
Something SL. Okay. Well, these are different countries and their depictions of what the Virgin Mary looked like. So kind of cultural. Keep going. And this is our Christmas Mass upstairs on the second floor in the Roman Catholic sanctuary. Okay, keep moving. The synagogue church. This is the one that you guys have already seen before. Little tiny place. It's this. I think it's about half the size of McDowell's sanctuary. McDowell's got a nice compact sanctuary. It's not very big. It's longer than it's wide. And this is the place where in Luke 4, Jesus opened the scroll and he read a passage from Isaiah and he said, "This has been fulfilled in your hearing today." And then he closes it, drops the microphone, and goes and sits down. And that was kind of the start of Jesus' ministry. And the way it unfolds in Luke's gospel, of course, John the Baptist baptizes Jesus. He then goes into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, is tempted. And then after being out for 40 days, starving, he comes to church. And he's coming back and he starts his ministry here. So we got a few pictures here. Austin's reading something. There's a theme. Austin seems to get in a lot of my pictures. Good guy, though. And there's the central altar. Keep moving. Keep moving. I took a lot of pictures there. All right. Final part. We're on the... we're doing good. We're doing good. This is part 3. So we're going to take you to Jerusalem, which is the holiest city in the world. And I say that because it is highly coveted by 3 major religions: Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. It is a major site for each of those 3 religions. There's me in front of the Temple Mount. I had the sun in my eyes, so I had to kind of smile and do like a one-eyed Pete thing going on there. No touching up here. We had a father-daughter go on this trip from New Jersey, and I was like, "Oh, I'll get your picture," and they posed together. And Jackie, come on up here real quick. This is what they did. They were father and daughter. They posed like this. Father puts his hand on the no. This is a holy site. Somebody came over and said, none of that.
Even his own daughter?
Right, and we're like, it's not. They said no intimacy. It's like, it's like a father-daughter. It's nothing. There's nothing going on here. Come on. But they're very serious up there. And you can take pictures. You can, I think laugh and whatnot. But they don't. Yeah, they want to respect the sacred site. I cannot go inside there, and neither can all of you. The only people that are allowed inside the Temple Mount are Muslims. It's amazing. Here in the United States, your religion is not something that you have to wear on your arm. What your profession of faith is. It's something that you can keep to yourself. It's something you can broadcast. Over in Israel, what your faith is determines your access, your ability to access certain parts. And this is especially true in the Temple Mount. Where I'm standing, somebody who's an Orthodox Jew, they can't go there. They're allowed only as far as the Western Wall. And so there are restrictions. I can't, as a Christian, I cannot go inside the Temple Mount, which is controlled by Islam. And so they have guards. You will see automatic rifles around here. There are people that is heavily policed. But it is because it is heavily policed that there is very, very, very little risk or danger there. You are very safe when you're inside this place. When they're not playing Angry Birds. I got a picture of these guys. They got automatic rifles right here, and they're playing Angry Birds on their phones. So anyway, there's that. That's from the Temple Mount. That's the Mount of Olives, which is directly opposite the Temple Mount.
A little more built up now, looks like,
Yeah, exactly. It's got a little more stuff to it. Like I said, there's a Russian Orthodox church. That Golden Dome right there is a Russian Orthodox church they built there. And a lot of stuff happened on the Mount of Olives in the Bible. And so they have a lot of stuff they want to build on top of. So there's a lot of places to visit there. And this is, what you're looking at is across to an area where Jesus would have come, on Palm Sunday. Jesus would have come down this mount and come into Jerusalem from that way because he was proclaiming himself the Messiah. At the same time, Pontius Pilate and a giant detachment of Roman soldiers were coming in through the other side with a war horse, and Jesus came in on a donkey. You can interpret that a few different ways, that Jesus is being humble, or he could be saying, pardon me, Pontius Pilate's being an ass. Yeah, I know. This is the Western Wall. You can go right up to it. There's no restriction on it. They're very, very welcoming, and there's a lot of folks that are praying here. These are all Orthodox Jews, and there's you see these little black tape on their arm right there, and you'll see things on their heads right here. I had to ask Dr. Yo, I said, why are they putting duct tape on their arms and little dollhouses on them? That's what it looked like. And he said, well, there's that scripture, and I think it's Deuteronomy, but it talks about binding my word, bind yourself with my word, and I think putting something upon your head. But it's the Shema is what it's called. And I should look up the scripture reference for that. I'm a bad pastor. They're all praying, and they're studying is what they're doing.
Is that the Wailing Wall?
That's, the Wailing Wall or the Western Wall. That's right.
Is this men only?
Actually, come to think of it, yes. Women are allowed, women are allowed to a certain point, but men are allowed up to the wall. I think they have a restriction where women can sit and observe. One thing you don't do at the Western Wall, you never turn your back on it. If you go up, you can go up to the Western Wall, you can wait in line and take your time, and you can go up to the Western Wall, and whether just to get up close and personal or whatever, you can look at it, but you don't do this. You do this. And it's not like you're going to get shot if you do it the other way. It's just disrespectful. It's considered disrespectful.
Did they tell you that before you did it?
Yeah. No, because I would have done it. I've been like, okay, this is great. Hey, where's a Burger King around here? I'm tired of eating all this. I'm tired of eating all this lamb. Come on. Let's see. All right. Earlier, I mentioned that there are traditional sites and there are bona fide sites where traditional sites are things that we think Jesus might have been here. This might have been the place where such and such a thing happened. And there are sites that we know Jesus was definitely here. Gethsemane is one of them. And there's a reason we know that Jesus was at Gethsemane. It's because that plaque was there telling, no, I'm just kidding. It's because of this thing. This tree is 2,000 years old. This grove has been there for 2,000 years, and it's been there and in that shape for 2,000 years. And I don't know if you can tell just how big that tree is. Did I keep Noemi in there? Yes. Noemi's a small person, but she's got her whole wingspan out there. That tree is big, and that tree is tall. And so this is an olive grove, and that's where Gethsemane was at. It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's it's hard to tell because it looks kind of gnarly, doesn't it? Yeah, it's alive. It's just really old. Keep going here. And I didn't get a really good shot. I had a little bit of trouble at Gethsemane, and not the way that people usually have trouble. When people realize, oftentimes there's this moment of revelation when you realize you're standing in a spot where Jesus has been. It's kind of overwhelming. It can be a very overwhelming feeling. And there are people that are in tears, that are just overcome, that are sobbing in this spot. I was not one of those people. I felt a sense of sacredness there and a sense of connection. And there was something going on, but I wasn't moved to tears. There were two young Brazilian ladies right in front of me. And there's this rock where Jesus prayed at, and we know that Jesus prayed on this rock. And they got down there and they were posing and praying, and that's when they started. The waterworks kind of started. And for me, I have a different take on it because these are people that are celebrating where Jesus historically was. But I come at my faith just a slightly different angle. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. When you're overcome with emotion, that's fine. But I thought there was something wrong with me. I was like, what's wrong with me that I can't celebrate this like these young ladies are? Look how overcome they are. And I realized what it was after I had a chance to think about it, is that when I think about my profession of faith and who I think Jesus is, well, Jesus is no longer confined to earth. And we can celebrate where Jesus has been, but really what it means to be a Christian is celebrating where Jesus has gone and where we're going to and who we're following after. And so for me, I thought about, well, yeah, Jesus is everywhere. You know, Jesus ascended to the Father. Jesus is in heaven. Jesus is here among us at all times. And so that's, I think, where I had more of a subdued reaction to it. Still very holy, still very awesome. And so they have this little engraving on the church. This is actually not the rock. This is the rock down here. And there's a church called the Church of All Nations right next door. And so they thankfully haven't defaced the rock, but they put it into the side of the church. Gethsemane is one of our places that we know Jesus was definitely at. And this is where we're going to end our presentation tonight. We're going to talk about Jesus' death and resurrection. And this is probably going to be one of our last stops in our journey. Let me check and see if that's day... Yes. Day 11, the day before we leave, come back to the U.S., we'll go on the Via Dolorosa, which means the way or the road of suffering. And this is the road that Jesus took carrying the cross after he had been tried by Pontius Pilate and had been condemned to die. And it's divided up into stations. If you ever heard of Stations of the Cross, if you ever heard that, a lot of times our Roman Catholic brothers and sisters will talk about it. There are 9 stations on the Via Dolorosa. And what I've done for you is there are some, again, traditional locations. There are things that have happened on the Via Dolorosa that are not in the Bible. People talk about it, and they're not mentioned in the Bible. It means they might have happened. They might not have happened. Could just be a legend. If it happened in the Bible, we're going to stop at each station here. And if it happened in the Bible, I went and got the scripture reference for you. So we'll go ahead and start with the first station, which is Jesus' trial and scourging. This happened. This is in the Bible. And these are the first 2 stations. So I've got the scripture references there. Now the men who were holding Jesus in custody were mocking him as they beat him. That's Luke 22:63. And Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And he answered him, "You have said so." Then Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowds, "I find no guilt in this man." These are the first 2 stations. And so these are biblical. We know we have biblical witness behind it. Station 3, Jesus falls. And this is going to become a theme as we go through the stations. This is the first time Jesus falls. We don't really have anything in the Bible that says that Jesus fell at this particular site along the road. It's something that's kind of crept into tradition. It's something that's happened over time. We don't have biblical evidence of it. And it's, as with everything, build a church around something where something happened. This is the Armenian Catholic Church. So Jesus falls, that's station 3. And also, not in the Bible, but this belief that when Jesus was carrying his cross and going to his crucifixion on Golgotha, that he encountered his mother Mary. And there's a depiction there of Jesus meeting Mary. When I say it's not biblical, that's not to say that it doesn't show up in writings. If you've ever looked at a Roman Catholic Bible versus our Bible, they have additional books in the Bible that aren't a part of ours. And we call it the Apocrypha. We call it the Apocrypha if you're in a study Bible. Some of these encounters are in the Apocrypha. Some of them are just legends that have kind of grown out of tradition. And they're old legends. It's not like somebody, yesterday said, well, I think Jesus met his mom on the road to Golgotha. So let's just say that happened. No, these are ancient legends. So they've come along years and years and years. They're just not mentioned in Scripture. Station 5, Simon of Cyrene takes up the cross. Has a lot of biblical evidence, not only in one gospel, but all 3 of the synoptic gospels. If you remember, there's that place. There's a place in the journey where Jesus can no longer take up his cross, and so they force somebody named Simon of Cyrene to carry Jesus' cross for him. So you've got those three accounts there. So this is biblical. Go ahead and move to station 6. This is a very particular legend. There was this belief that a woman named Veronica met Jesus along the roadway, and he was covered in sweat, and so she took one of her own shawls or rags or something